We are wiping out fish at a fucking staggering rate.
An alarming rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scientists predict that 8 years is all it would take to bring it back to 100%, or maybe it was 98%.
What?
If we stopped fishing the ocean for 8 years, it would be back to nearly 100% fecundancy, 100% perfect, nearly.
But we'd have to get all the countries on board.
Yeah,
That means
it's
for
impossible.
8 years, all the fishermen would starve.
And not to
not
mention,
gonna do
fish
it.
is the primary source of protein for like the majority of the planet. It's 100 million sharks a year we're killing. Just sharks. 100 million a year. Just think about that. That is so many animals.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so, I mean, are the oceans fucked? My short answer is no, because I don't like to think in that doom and gloom. I think if we continue at the rate that we're doing it, we're going to see a big collapse. And by the way, people seem to forget about this. If we lose the ocean, we all die. It's the biggest carbon neutralizer. It gives us all of our protein. Like, there's a million reasons why the ocean, it's where all our rain comes from. Everything is connected to the ocean. And if we fuck that up completely, we're gone. Yeah. And yet, here we are, like, day after day, doing everything we can.
Just dumping stuff into the ocean.
Everything. Those trawlers that are, like, scraping the bottom, all the starfish and skates and coral reefs. It's crazy that we do
Meanwhile,
that.
I love sushi.
It's the best. Favorite food in the whole world. I know. But we're all hypocrites in that regard.
It's so fucked. There's just so many goddamn people and so much need.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if people were forced to gather their own food and hunt for their own food, you know, we'd have a completely different thought about like where food comes from.
100%.
But the fact that you could just pull in a Jack in the Box, get a burger,
Right.
or
Eat a piece of cow, no
fillet of
problem.
fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the connectedness, man. I stand by that. I think I've become more and more of a proponent for it as I get older, but it's just like people need to connect with nature and connect with animals. If they can do that, they can have appreciation. I just think people need to connect to nature more.
Yeah, we're very disconnected. It's just such a new thing, too, that human beings live in these massive population centers like Los Angeles and New York and are so removed from the process of like where their food comes from.
Completely and utterly. To the point that humans are disgusted by it. Like you see these comments online, are like, "Oh my God, how can you cut that fish up, or how can you fillet that that deer, or clean that elk, or whatever?" It's like, where the fuck do you think your food's coming from?
And there's some people, if they're not eating fish and meat, they don't understand what monocrop agriculture is doing to the earth.
And that's 10 times worse.
It's the worst.
Dude, we went to Borneo. For 2 days, all we saw was oil palm. For 2 days. I'm not joking. It's just like 8-9 hours of driving per day, plantation after plantation of monoculture. One singular crop, wiping out virgin primary jungle to plant this oil palm. It was devastating. Nothing lives in it.
And palm oil is used for
everything.
Everything.
Your Nutella, your peanut butter, your it's like the cheapest version of oil.
Wow.
Just for days, Joe. I'm not kidding. It is devastating to see.
And
there's
so all that wildlife, all that habitat is all destroyed for this monocrop.
Yep, all gone. Yes, look at that picture. 1950 versus 2020. Look at that. 1950, look at the amount of virgin jungle. 2020, look what's left.
Wow. It's literally like there's maybe 30% left.
And so we drove up that sort of coastline that you see there, and it's just, you just see nothing. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Jamie. And you just, it's unfathomable that we can do this.
It used to be a big bow hunting destination.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they used to have a bunch of different species that someone had brought over there at one point in time, like elk and deer, and and they killed them all, like from a helicopter.
So there was elk on Santa Rosa, and then Santa Cruz, which is the biggest one, had sheep and pigs. For a while, they opened up like tag hunting, like come out and get your elk and get your pig.
Yeah.
But then eventually the state just said, like, we got to do something about it. Have you heard about the Judas goat? Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah. The Judas goat is a process in which, say you're trying to eradicate goats from an island. Well, the goats wake up. They get aware that there's a helicopter buzzing overhead and somebody's shooting them, and they all start scattering and getting scared, and it becomes harder and harder to get the last 10%. So they do this thing called a Judas goat, where they go and catch a goat, put a collar on it, and then let the goat go, and the goat finds its friends, and they mow down all of the other animals and leave the Judas goat, who then pops over to the next group of goats. So you're a real shitty friend if you're the Judas goat.
Or you're just dumb as shit and you're being manipulated by people.
True.
I think they castrate them too. How did people kill off the passenger pigeon? Because weren't there millions and millions of passenger pigeons?
Millions. Yeah, they said they would black out the sky right here in Texas. Yeah. So one, they were hunted tremendously, but the main reason, they were such a flocking bird that once their numbers were reduced to the point that they couldn't have such large flocks, they weren't successful any longer. They no longer had the ability to behave the way that they had typically behaved in these huge flocks, and that was making them unsuccessful.
How did they not know that they were on their way to getting rid of them? How did they not know that that was happening?
Again, I don't believe they didn't.
Isn't it crazy how different people look at things like wildlife conservation today versus just a few hundred years ago? It's like, well, guess we killed all the bison.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
but that's why radical conservation, like the bringing back mammoths and rewilding wolves and stuff like that, we need that, Joe.
Yeah.
Because conservation, we fucking suck at it. We've been doing it for 100 years, and we are losing every single year. We are not winning. There are small little successful stories, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But on a grand scale, we are losing the conservation game. So radical conservation, crazy science experiments and bringing stuff back, putting wolves in Yellowstone, whatever it is, trying something is better than not trying anything and continuing down the path we've been going.
The only animals that we're really good at conserving are the ones we want to eat.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Great.
more white-tailed deer in North America today than there were when Columbus arrived.
Right. And that's fine.
100% because of hunting.
It is.
And also because of agriculture.
Right.
Because they flock to these agriculture areas.
Cornfields.
That's why, places like Iowa, where there's all these farms, there's so many deer, giant deer in Iowa.
Right.
It's actually amazing the job that wildlife biologists have done in this country and conservationists have done in this country. They're really pretty goddamn good at setting up the correct number of tags and making sure that the habitat is preserved and allocating that money for rangers and wardens and making sure that these people, monitor these animals and stop poaching. And
in North America, we are very good at it, on a global scale.
Yeah.
The problem is we always, doesn't matter if you're North America or anywhere, wait until the very end to do it. Oh, there's only 12 of them left or whatever. Now we're going to put in all this effort. It's being preventative instead of reactive is the ticket moving forward. And we are starting to make that shift,
I am so interested in seeing what they decide to do. If this really takes off in Siberia with the woolly mammoths, if they reintroduce them not just in Alaska, but then bring them into Montana and bring them into the lower 48, and then start reintroducing other things. If they can figure out how to do that with a saber-toothed tiger, that would be fucking wild.
That'd be so scary.
That would be wild.
Their 10 or maybe 20-year goal is 600,000 mammoths over 1.3 million miles.
600,000 mammoths.
That's a lot of mammoths. But they'll start reproducing on their own, right? It's not like they're going to make them all.